What's going on YouTube? Today I'm going to show you how we made this track right here. Alrighty, so let's get into it. So this track is a tutorial on how to make like some chill ambient type music. If you're typically into like Tycho, Emancipator, or lo-fi music in general, this is going to be perfect for you. So what we have going on is not too much here, but we're going to start with what I always go with, which is the chords, which we have two sets of chords here, as you can hear. For this, what I'm using is I'm using Glaze from Native Instruments. This is a pretty cool little pad. It's a vocal pad that they've made that we have as the first layer. The second layer of the chords, which I've got going on, is another form of Glaze called Don't Cry. On their own, they would sound like this. And then what I have down here is a glue compressor that's compressing the two of them together. This keeps them nice and tight, helps merge the sounds. By themselves, without the compressor, they sound like this. So really loose, you can't really distinguish the two too well. And now let's compress them. So that is what makes up our chords track. We have a simple saw bass on Serum here. This is what's going to create our root notes. So on this track, what we have sounds like this. Just a nice gritty low end to it. It's pretty easy, pretty smooth. We do have vinyl on this, but we're going to get into what we're using this for later. So next we have this ambient vocal track down here. And this is just something unique I played around with. I like the idea of having the human voice in it. We're using Exhale for this. This is a super cool plugin that helps add nice good bit of ambience. And then we have this cool little key pattern here in the beginning. So for this, we're using ignition keys from Native Instruments. This is a super cool plugin. Definitely made it in the mind of like lo-fi, hip hop, anything along that lines. As you can see, it has a pretty drippiness sound to it. Super cool effects that it can have. And then we have our drums and percussion and some risers as well that we're using. Some percussion to fill the emptiness in the beginning. And then down here on our drum track, we have a pretty unique field going on that we just programmed. Here's what we have in the beginning. And then in the drop, we pick it up a little bit more. And I'm a big fan of using this plugin on my drums. This is the Big Sky Reverb plugin. This helps add a little room ambience to it and helps get a little more realistic sound. I'm not riding this reverb too hard though. I'm only using at about 25% mix. So mostly what we're hearing is dry. I'd probably bring that down even a little bit more. But that is going to help give a little more realistic feel. So all together, what we have in the beginning is going to sound like this. Now we're going to get to the most important thing here, which is the drop, which I used a guitar in this that I played myself and a couple other things we have going on. Just 1 second, guys. I got to get my guitar real quick so we can do this. So this is my guitar that I use in all my recordings. It's a Music Man Mariposa. It's one of my favorite guitars that I own. I do have quite the collection behind me, but this is primarily my recording guitar. Once we got my guitar out, what we did is we ended up playing this lick here. I'm going to show you guys what it sounds like, and we're going to hear it dry, and then we're going to hear it after all the effects. So on the guitar, what we have is Guitar Rig 6. We ended up using an amp sim that emulates a Vox style amp with some tremolo, some delay, some reverb, not too much craziness there. We have a little bit of compression as well. Then we took an EQ, smoothed out the harshness and helped shape it a little bit. And then at the very tail end of the chain, we have thermal. What this plugin does is give a little more width, a little more drive to the overall sound, but we're not giving it too much. We're actually keeping it pretty dry for the most part. What it sounds like before, this is what it sounds like now after all that is done. So as you can see, this adds a lot more ambience, a lot more effect, and a lot more characteristics to my guitar. Helps it stay interesting in the overall mix. Once we had everything set in stone, this is what it sounded like, and here's how we go into the drop. So that's the drop there. We do have one final part in our song, which is the outro here. We go back to that drop, similar method here, but at the tail end, we do a nice little fade out. So let's listen to what that sounds like here. And that's pretty much it. If you have any questions about my mixing style, how I play guitar, and how to play in key, feel free to reach out anytime. You can hit me up on my Instagram or my TikTok. Stay gold, everyone.